There's really kind of two schools of thought. You can either dance with the one who brung you, or you can fall for the hot new piece of tail that just walked past, and you can't do anything other than salivate with the thought of dancing with that instead. And that's where Texas has to deal with what they have to confront after the performance of Arch Manning on Saturday. Quinn Ewers has been nothing short of spectacular during his time with the Longhorns. And he was nothing short of spectacular on Saturday before he got hurt. 14 of 16, 185 yards, 2 touchdowns, at an INT. So only one of the passes he threw was not caught on Saturday before he got hurt. And yet, Arch Manning comes in, goes 9 of 12, 223 yards, 4 touchdowns, had a 67-yard, beg your pardon, dyslexia, 67-yard touchdown run on his own and played lights out football. And it's easy to dismiss that as, oh, it was against UTSA. Quinn Ewers was completing passes and playing really well against UTSA too. But there are going to be questions of what should Texas do, especially if Quinn Ewers can't go on Saturday and Arch Manning lights it up again. There will be some faction of the fan base and, frankly, some faction of the team to say, like, hey, man, Arch is playing really good. Why would we mess with that? Now, I don't know that that's necessarily fair. I've always kind of operated under the guise of, like, you shouldn't lose your spot because you got hurt. At the same time, that means Tom Brady probably never ascends to be the greatest quarterback that ever lived. And they put him back under Drew Bledsoe, and they go on about their lives. I don't think that's fair. I don't know that it's right necessarily either. I don't think Texas is going to replace Quinn Ewers with Arch Manning. I don't think that's going to happen. I think Steve Sarkisian is experienced enough, and one is wise enough. And that might be the most important thing, is wise enough to have dealt with this ahead of time mentally. To have thought, if we get in a situation where the opportunity is presented, or I have to choose, I need to choose Quinn Ewers. The comedian Bert Kreischer tells, this great story of, like, when he was first starting out in comedy, he promised himself and his family, I'm not going to cheat on my wife. Not going to cheat on my wife. Not going to cheat on my wife. To the point where, like, if he was at a bar and a pretty girl would talk to him, he would shout, I'm not going to cheat on my wife at the start of the conversation. And I imagine that's where Steve Sarkisian's head is at as well. You have to prepare for it, because if you don't, you're going to be in a bad situation and you might not make the correct decision. Now, I think the correct decision is you continue to play Quinn Ewers. 1, you dance with who brung you. And Quinn Ewers has played really well. Quinn Ewers has done nothing to lose that job other than make his side hurt. And it certainly would appear as if Arch Manning has done nothing to deserve to win that job, to take that job away from Quinn Ewers, other than play when Quinn Ewers couldn't. But, man, is that going to be really difficult to turn down, because you see the flashes and you see that Arch Manning is still just a young pup. And yet, in his first kind of real big opportunity, played against Colorado State. Yeah, okay. Didn't play. I play against like Texas Tech last year. Has not gotten on the field a lot, but did on Saturday. And you have to undeniably like what you see. I think it would be really easy to salivate over seeing a 6'4" sophomore quarterback, redshirt freshman quarterback, reportedly run faster than Tyreek Hill's top speed in that touchdown run and think anything other than like, God, I can't wait to get my hands on that. But what you have waiting for you at home is still really good, real pretty, cooks a hell of a meal, cleans the house. All they do is everything you ask them to do. So there might be a hot piece of tail that just walk past and you think, gosh, why did I commit to vanilla when I could have fudge ripple double chocolate chip? But fudge ripple double chocolate chip is going to be there when vanilla is done. When you're done with vanilla, fudge ripple double chocolate chip is still going to be there, conceivably. And that might be the biggest kind of like protection, because you're kind of damned if you do and damned if you don't in an NIL world. I don't expect Arch Manning to operate under kind of the same guise as a lot of other players in 2024 college football. But you have a pretty finite window of how many times you get to play Quinn Ewers at quarterback, because he's going to the NFL next year. Unless you don't play him. And then maybe his draft stock hurts a little bit. Well, he's going to transfer if he loses that job to Arch Manning. So if you play Arch Manning right now, every player that you play a lot of is putting tape on film to other potential college coaches that we can pretend that they don't talk to players. They do, entice them into the portal. You go to name the program. How many programs could Arch Manning start at next season? It's really, really, really high. And you go to your biggest booster and say, I need X amount of dollars to get Arch Manning in the portal and get him on our campus. Now, I don't think Arch Manning operates under that same thought process, right? Because he has two older generations and Super Bowl winning relatives to rely on. That one, you don't have to chase the NIL bag that other players inevitably do. But also, you have the luxury of having the eyes on the prize, right? Like, we put the blinders on. We don't have to worry about winning. We don't have to worry about being national championship. We don't have to worry about the money. We have to worry about the second NFL contract. And that's a whole different ball game that Arch Manning is playing, that many college football players are not. But there is always that chance, that minute, slim chance, that if you get Arch Manning in the starting lineup, that you end up in 2025 with neither Quinn Ewers and Arch Manning. So there's this, and I think it's dumb, but I think you have to have that thought process in the back of your mind, not just for Arch Manning, but for a lot of kids. That if you want, like, it is flat out it's a players' league now, baby. It's a players' league. They have the leverage. They have the power. And when they have that leverage and power, you have to somewhat guard against it, for better or worse. So you're kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't with Arch Manning. If you don't put him on the field, maybe he gets pissed off and says, like, screw this, I'm going to go somewhere else. If you do put him on the field, somebody else could come in with a big old bag, because I guarantee what they saw on Saturday is already enough, coupled with the last name, the cachet, the experience that comes with being associated with the Mannings, is going to be worth enough to start throwing out hefty dollar figures. But you gotta dance with the one who brung you, I think. But I will give Steve Sarkisian enough credit, I think, once Quinn Ewers is healthy, that I would be absolutely shocked, flabbergasted, floored if they didn't stay with Quinn Ewers. I know that it's tempting. I know that you see what's on the horizon and you can't wait to get there. But what you got right now is already pretty good. Good enough to lead you to the college football playoff, potentially good enough to lead you to a national championship. And is he better and more prepared to do that right now than Arch Manning? Probably. Some would say inarguably. So I'll give Steve Sarkisian credit because I think they're going to go back to Quinn Ewers. And that's something that you have to deal with mentally before you get there, because it would be real easy to watch the film of Arch Manning and be under like the power of some voodoo temptress saying like, oh, you should play Arch Manning. You should play Arch Manning. And it would be real easy to fall for that. I don't think they're gonna. And if they do, we'll come back and have the conversation because it is a fascinating conversation. But I don't envy Steve Sarkisian in one bit because we all want what we ain't got. And then when you got it, times two, whew, that's difficult to deal with. That'll do it for today's episode of the Daily Huddle. Appreciate you making us a part of your day, however it is, wherever it is you're doing so. If you're watching on YouTube, hit the subscribe button. Make sure you're getting all the great college football content that we are pumping out here on Saturday Glory. If you're listening on the podcast feed, drop a 5-star review. It goes a long way in helping out the channel. I'll see you tomorrow for another episode of the Daily Huddle.